Welcome to the Lawrence Career Center podcast. I'm Ty Collins, and today we visit with Allison Boshell from the Lawrence class of 2021. Allison majored in English and studio art and also worked in the communications office and was the curator at the Rabbit Gallery during her time at LU. In 2022, she earned her real estate license and is now a realtor and home buyer specialist with the Welter Group with Keller Williams Success Realty in Barrington, Illinois. Welcome, Allison.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here and be reconnecting with my Lawrence experience.
Starting with that, you've been away from Lawrence for a few years now. What do you remember most about being a Lawrence student?
I would say the things I remember the most, or the biggest impression that Lawrence had on me, was just all the fun I had while I was there and all the meaningful connections and relationships that I had, both with students and people in the Appleton area and my professors.
When you were still a student, you and I worked quite a bit on mapping out a career plan. We were mainly looking at public relations and marketing roles, and real estate wasn't on the radar. So when did the switch come along? When did you decide that realty was the path you wanted to follow?
I was doing a lot of self-reflecting after graduation and thinking about my strengths and what I have to offer people and bring value. And I remembered throughout my life, my family rented and we moved around a lot. We moved from California to Chicago. We moved from Chicago to Pennsylvania. And it was just became obvious to me. I'm like, okay, how can I be helping people with this same process? And at the same time, my parents were in the process of buying their forever home in the Barrington area, tail end of 2021. And I saw the joy and enthusiasm, but also the emotion that they went through in this process. And I'm like, why wouldn't I do this? This is completely obvious to me. And that prompted me to actually connect with my aunt, who has been a realtor in Maryland and Florida for most of her life. And so I had a conversation with her, and I remember asking her, what kind of personality does well in real estate? What do you need to be good at? What kind of ability do you need to be able to relate to these people? And everything that she said matched with my personality, my strengths, my skills. And so it just became obvious.
What were some of those strengths and skills that you felt you had, and how do you use them in a typical day at work?
When I spoke with my aunt, the realtor, on the phone, one of the things that she emphasized was being able to understand the person that's sitting across the table from you. And that person is always going to be someone different. They're always from different walks of life. I help people sell and buy homes that are $100,000 up to millions of dollars. And so being able to understand these different personalities and what they result to when they're stressed or high emotion is key. And being an empath my whole life, that's something that I've been able to do. And so it just made sense to me. So as far as a typical day, no day looks exactly alike in real estate. And that's because it is entirely client-based. Most of the time when people are selling their house, they're going through a big life change. Maybe they're having another kid. Maybe they had a death in the family. Maybe mom or dad is moving into assisted living or memory care. Sometimes they're going through divorce. And so you have to be able to understand and relate and just be a safe space that they can trust. As far as a typical day, I'm just there for them and doing what they need. So if they need to drop off their earnest money check for them because they have something happening with work or they're just having a hard day, I can do that for them. I'm booking their inspections. I'm fitting, their home tours around their schedule and making sure that, we get in as quickly as possible so they can get their dream home. So it's really client-based for a typical day.
Real estate teams have buyers and sellers. You are the buying portion of your team. If someone's looking for a home, they begin working with you. What can they expect? What does the process look like from start to finish?
The buying process would be, it would start with a meeting. I call it a consult. It's kind of like the fancy term, I guess, for it. But it's just getting to know each other. So maybe we connected through a mutual friend, or maybe you're my close friend, or I met you on Facebook and, you were saying you're looking for a house with XYZ specifications. But the biggest thing is we're going to meet. We're going to make sure it's a good fit because it's a collaboration. It is you hiring me and me working for you, but it's a collaboration. It has to be a good mesh of personalities to make sure that we're going to be able to work together effectively and make this dream happen for you. So we meet, we go over the expectations of what you can expect from me, what I expect from you as a buyer. And in that, we're talking about what you're looking for in a home. So beds, baths, square footage. Do you want a pool? Do you have vaulted ceilings you want? Do you need wooden beams? Like it's just whatever you want. Walk me through the dream is what I'm going for in this scenario. Jumping off of the console, we go into the home search process. So I usually set up an automatic home search for them that goes to their email in real time as the homes are coming on the market. So it's kind of a twofold process. So I like to describe that as the wide net, because we're filtering the search not too heavily because we want to make sure we don't miss that hidden gem, sort of a catch-all, if you will. And then the other part of this twofold home search is what I like to call the small net or the close net, which is where I'm jumping into that search and I'm pulling out homes and I'm like, hey, based on what we talked about, I think this could be a major contender for what you're looking for. And then when you find something that you like, we're going to go on home tours. It's the fun part. So that's where we get to go and explore and go in other people's houses, sometimes see, how other people live. That's my favorite part about this industry. I get to see like how people design their homes, or I'm like, oh my God, that was like a really cool addition you did. It always gives me really, really fun ideas on how I want to structure my home or my apartment. And then when you find something that you like, we're going to put an offer on it. So we're going to work together, make strategy. We're going to work on negotiations. And if we can come to terms with that seller and you get your offer accepted, that's awesome. We're going to pop champagne early because it's always an exciting process, especially in a seller's market. That can be a major hurdle. And after you get your offer accepted, we go into the inspection period. So that's where you have your time to explore the home, hire whatever inspectors you want. We usually start with a general home inspector, but if you have any specialty inspections you want to do, like electricians, plumbers, radon testing, mold inspections, you can go through that. It's usually about a 5-day period. Sometimes it gets extended, but that's your time to explore and make sure that the home feels manageable to you and what you're getting into. If it does feel like it's the right fit, then we'll close the inspection period and you go into the appraisal and underwriting. So underwriting is where your lender is basically going to be asking for your left hand, your kidney, and your liver in the form of documents. So sometimes that can actually be the most overwhelming process because they're really diving into your financial history even more than they already did when you had your pre-approval before you started looking for homes. So that can be a little bit stressful. But the appraisal as well, that's going to be a third-party opinion of fair market price so that, the bank feels comfortable that the money that they're loaning you for your mortgage is covered. Once all that happens, then we get to the closing table, we go to title, you go with your attorney, they're going to walk you through your packet of all the closing documents and sign everything, and you get your keys, and you have your new home.
Simple as that.
Yeah, simple as that.
It sounds like you really love your job. I was wondering if you could tell us what you think is the best part or the most rewarding part, and then also what part you find most difficult.
Ooh, that's a good question. There's two parts that I find the most rewarding. I find the puzzle to be the most rewarding, first and foremost, because I'm trying to match someone's dream idea, whether that's their forever home, their starter home, an investment property that, they're going to fix and flip or make into a long-term or a short-term rental. So it's that puzzle of finding exactly what someone wants and making it fit with what's available. It's harder than it seems sometimes. Sometimes you go and the first home you look at, it's like, oh my God, this is great. And then I have some buyers that they have very specific things that they want. And we've been looking for 2 years. So it's about kind of making a square fit in a circle or a circle fit in a square and making, those points fit and finding compromise and figuring out what does and what doesn't work. So the puzzle. And then the other part is more emotional. It's the tangible impact that's happening right in front of you in real time, which was part of what I spoke about that drew me into real estate. But you're impacting people's lives and it's happening right in front of you the whole time. They just got married. They're getting their first home. They're investing in a property, and this is going to be a game changer for their financial welfare for the rest of their life. So it's an emotional impact. It's very moving.
Yeah. I can see where it would be.
Yes.
While prepping for this interview, Allison, I was looking at your social media, your Instagram page. You make really good use of videos for your social media. I love your Should I Buy or Should I Rent series. They're funny, they're informative, they're entertaining. You were an English major, you were also a studio art major. I was wondering if the skills you picked up in those programs have contributed to your being successful in this job, and more broadly, how you feel your Lawrence education contributed to being good at what you do.
Okay, let me see if I can break this down. So I definitely use skills for marketing from both of my majors at LU in English and studio art. Studio art comes into play. There's a lot of, about color theory and composition, and that comes into social media more than you would think. I actually do all of the branding for my team as well. So I made our entire brand kit with coloring logos, picking our fonts, things like that. So that definitely came into play. English as well. Being able to write effectively is a key element in this industry. I'm writing emails to agents when we're submitting offers and trying to describe my client in a way to make them the most appealing character for these sellers, because you never know sometimes what their deciding factor is going to be. Some people are all about the numbers. So, whatever you write in the email isn't going to matter. But I've had multiple situations where we're in a multiple offer scenario, and what I write in my email about my client is actually what has won us the deal, because they're making an emotional, sentimental decision. As far as communications, you would not believe the styles of communications from professionals in this industry. It's possibly the most important skill in this field. It's something I'm really passionate about. I actually wrote a blog post for my team's website about this topic. If anyone wants to go read that, I recommend it for sure. I go more in depth about it there. But yeah, you have to be an effective communicator to win for your clients. It's absolutely key.
Are you finding other ways to incorporate your art background into your work with clients, maybe finding a creative touch to personalize the experience?
Yeah, I have, clients that I really connect with, and I learn a lot about them and their interests. So sometimes I'll make them custom client gifts at Lawrence. I did my studio art concentration was in book art, so I did a lot of work with, binding and leather and things like that. So I actually applied that to this one client I had that they own horses down in Kentucky, and then they're also big whiskey drinkers. So whenever, we'd go over to their house that they were selling, I'd see their big whiskey collection, and everything is very equestrian, Western themed. And so I was thinking about what am I going to do for a closing gift for them? Because I always get closing gifts for all my clients. And I was like, this would be the perfect idea. So I actually made them coasters for whiskey glasses out of real horseshoes, and then I bound leather to them, and it had cowhide on them and everything. So, and they really, really appreciated that. So I like to make custom gifts for my clients with my creative side.
Very nice. And most agents probably can't do that. So that's another nice way to set yourself apart from people. If there are some Lawrence students listening to this and thinking, maybe I should try real estate as a career, what is some key advice you'd have for them?
The biggest thing that I, discovered, and I will say, maybe it comes off kind of, not what people would expect, but this job is not what you see on social media. It's not what you see on Selling Sunset on Netflix. It's not what you see on HGTV. If you want to make a sale, you have to chase it, and you have to chase it hard. You have to go out on limbs and ask people for business. You have to ask them for referrals and reviews. It's really what you make it every single day. Anything you see a realtor doing, they've really worked their butt off for. The agents that make it are the ones that work when it's hard. They're the ones that work when they think that they're done for the day. You're always on call. And it's because you've made a promise to act in the best interest of someone else, always, no matter what, at the expense of your time, at the expense of your weekend. It's a 24/7 job, truly, and you have to love it. It's not for the faint of heart.
I do want to ask a question more specific to just transitioning from being a student to no longer being a student, as you graduated not too long ago. What was the biggest surprise or change you noticed from being a Lawrence student living on campus to being someone living out on your own in the world?
I would say this actually kind of makes me think of a quote that I came across recently, which I think kind of has embodied my personal growth experience since graduation. And the quote is, "Your perspective is your prison or your passport." I've really been living by this quote because in order to, get where you want to go, to be driven, to be self-motivated, which are all things that I've had to harness, since starting in real estate, you have to expand your views. You have to constantly be seeking out new interests. You have to do things that make you uncomfortable. Be on a podcast for the first time like I'm doing today. Write things that maybe you're nervous about releasing. Get in front of the video on social media and make a fool of yourself to make a reel that maybe will get you your next client because you're relatable even though you're uncomfortable. The worst thing you can do for yourself is lock into an echo chamber. Get uncomfortable. Expand yourself. Expand your perspective.
Finally, a question kind of for your future is, do you see yourself staying in this for a long time? And then more broadly, what do you see as the future for real estate? And I've begun asking this question of all my guests just because of the way AI is changing virtually every industry. Where do you see your field going?
Yeah, the AI conversation is fascinating. I've been hearing about it a lot with different industries. It's a common conversation I have, with my clients. I would say it's hard to predict where the industry is headed. And because many people, speculate AI will take over, but I can't see a world where AI replaces realtors. And obviously I'm biased because, this is my job. Why would I want AI to take over, my industry and what I love doing? But the reason I say that is because this is an emotional process for most people. Moving as a process alone is incredibly stressful. It's incredibly emotional, whether you're buying or renting. Like that, you're just moving your life somewhere else. Now try adding financial struggles to that. Try adding, marital challenges or marital changes, a death in the family, transitioning to a different part of your life, and buying a home for the first time. Those aren't things that you learn about in school on how to manage that or how to go through that process. You need someone to rely on that knows everything, that you can lean on when things get hard. Sometimes family makes moving a little bit more difficult. So you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, I just need someone to talk to. And you can't get that from AI. You can't get that personal touch. And that's something that everyone wants, but I find more often than not, that is something that everyone needs. And sometimes, these major changes in people's lives are super impactful, negative or positive.
Yeah. And for that kind of stuff, they're going to need people like you to help them through it.
Yes. And I love doing it. It's never easy. Sometimes it is, but I love doing it because it always presents a challenge, and I love helping people through those moments.
Well, it sounds like you found a perfect fit for yourself, and it sounds like that the people you are helping have found the right person to, give them the support and the talent that they need. That's good for you and good for them.
Yes.
And we're about out of time for today. Just for our listeners, be sure you check out the description below. I've got links to Allison's social media page so you can check out some of those videos, as well as a link to her website and one to the blog article that Allison wrote about communication being key. And Allison, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciated our chat and your willingness to be genuine and open about your career as a realtor. Allison Boshell, Lawrence class of 2021, thank you for joining us on the Career Center podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.